Picture this. A man walks into a room, chest puffed, voice raised, every movement choreographed to project dominance. He thinks noise equals power. That attention is control. For a fleeting second, he's right. Eyes turn, people take notice. But then, the deeper instinct awakens, that ancient part of the human mind that measures threat not by sound, but by silence. And that's when it becomes clear what Machiavelli knew centuries ago. The man who must announce his strength has already betrayed his weakness. Real power doesn't bark. It doesn't pose. It doesn't require applause to feel real. It simply exists, felt, not seen. Machiavelli once said, "The first method of estimating a ruler's intelligence is to look at the men he has around him." And here lies the tragedy of those who act tough. They don't attract strength. They attract users, parasites, opportunists wearing friendly faces. They repel competence and invite manipulation. Their aggression becomes a stage play, a theater of control that's impressive only until someone intelligent watches closely. Because when you perform dominance, you show your hand to every observer. You expose the weakness behind the volume. Look around any room, the office, the gym, the social gathering, and you'll see the same archetype. The man who mistakes volume for authority, who mistakes intimidation for respect. He dominates conversations like a soldier who never left the battlefield, always fighting invisible wars. But what he doesn't realize is this: the moment you act like you need to win, you've already lost. The perceptive ones, the operators, the thinkers, the quiet movers, they see through it instantly. They don't argue. They don't react. They calculate, assess, and walk away, already planning how to use you later. Because power never shouts. It whispers. It doesn't demand respect. It commands it through restraint, discipline, and control. Loud confidence is brittle. It fractures under pressure. It's a signpost that says, "I need you to believe I'm strong because I'm not sure I am." And everyone who watches knows it. The predators mark it, the wise avoid it, and the dangerous wait for it to crumble. That's why acting tough is always a losing strategy. The more you perform, the easier it becomes for others to dismantle you, because now they know exactly what you fear. The truly dangerous don't posture. They don't announce. They operate from calm. They measure each movement, every glance, every word. They let the world underestimate them until the moment comes, and when it comes, they don't hesitate. They act with precision, finality, and silence. That's real power. The kind you don't see coming until it's too late. Because strength that must be proven isn't strength. It's insecurity wearing armor. Machiavelli warned, "Never start a war you cannot win." Yet the modern tough guy wages wars everywhere. On the road, at work, online, without asking if the fight even serves a purpose. He confuses disagreement for challenge, challenge for disrespect, and disrespect for war. And so he fights endlessly, exhausting himself on battles that win him nothing but attention and enemies. Each outburst, each impulsive reaction, is another fracture in his illusion of control. He thinks his rage makes him feared. It doesn't. It makes him predictable. It gives his opponents a roadmap, because the moment you lose composure, you hand the steering wheel to your enemy. The instant anger takes over, you've already surrendered control of the outcome. The wise man acts only after calculating every consequence. The fool acts first and prays the world will adapt to his mistake. But the world never does. The tough guy lashes out when cut off in traffic, explodes when questioned, postures when ignored. Each time he's betting on luck and pride, and losing both. Real predators don't chase noise. They study it. They let others burn energy in public battles while they plan in private. They observe who seeks validation, who performs power, who mistakes visibility for dominance. Then when the time is right, they make one quiet move that changes everything. That's why the loudest in the room are rarely the most dangerous. The loudest crave reaction. The strongest control it. Acting tough is the surest way to invite attack. It tells the world where to strike. Every glare, every bark, every overreaction is a signal to those watching that you can be provoked, manipulated, and undone. The more you reveal, the less they fear you. The less they fear you, the more they test you. And soon, your entire persona becomes a trap of your own making. People smile to your face while quietly collecting ammunition, screenshots, witnesses, stories. You think you're commanding respect, but you're documenting your downfall. This is what Machiavelli called the blindness of the tyrant, the belief that fear equals control, that silence equals loyalty. But it doesn't. The more people fear you, the more they conspire. The more they smile, the more they resent. Every yes hides a plan for your eventual collapse, and it happens everywhere. The loud man at the gym eventually meets someone quieter and far more capable. The office bully overplays his hand with someone who actually has influence. The digital tough guy learns that one smart opponent with a sharper mind can erase a reputation with a few clicks. The world doesn't reward dominance anymore. It records it, archives it, and weaponizes it. The modern age has no room for tyrants. It exposes them. That's how the downfall begins. The man obsessed with appearing powerful becomes a liability. People who once admired his strength now see instability. Teams stop inviting him. Managers stop trusting him. Conversations quiet down when he enters the room. His reputation, the armor he wore so proudly, begins to rust. Screenshots circulate. Stories spread. What was once assertive becomes volatile. What was once confident becomes dangerous. Reputation, the invisible currency of power, is gone. And Machiavelli warned, the best fortress a prince can possess is the love of his people. Without it, every empire crumbles from within. Because people don't follow tyrants, they tolerate them. They obey out of fear until that fear no longer serves them. Then they turn. Fear-based power is fragile. It's loud, emotional, short-lived. It collapses the moment respect disappears. And respect cannot coexist with desperation. When a man's power depends on fear, it's already fading. In every sphere, the office, the street, the digital world, this pattern repeats. The performer burns bright and fast. The strategist burns quiet and long. The performer wins the room. The strategist wins the war. And the difference between the two is simple. Composure. The one who remains composed holds power even in defeat. The one who loses control loses everything, even victory itself. Psychologically, the tough guy lives in a trap of his own ego. He can't admit weakness, so he never learns. He can't ask for help, so he never grows. He can't show humility, so he never earns trust. He's surrounded by people, but connected to none, admired by few, respected by fewer. And over time, the act consumes him. The mask becomes his identity. The performance becomes his life. What started as strength ends in exhaustion. The fortress he built to protect himself becomes a cage with no exit. Meanwhile, the quiet ones, the ones he mocked, rise steadily. They don't perform. They plan. They don't react. They adapt. They don't demand loyalty. They earn it. While he's burning bridges, they're building networks. While he's chasing validation, they're accumulating leverage. While he's flexing in public, they're winning in silence. Because Machiavelli's lesson was never about tyranny. It was about understanding human nature. Power built on fear is borrowed. Power built on trust is owned. Real influence isn't about domination. It's about cooperation. Not control, but value. And value is built through one thing alone, competence. People don't follow the loudest person in the room. They follow the one who delivers, who understands, who stays calm when others panic. That's who gets remembered. That's who rises. That's who commands true power. And that's where the illusion of toughness dies. When the tough guy realizes that all his noise, all his aggression, all his posturing has bought him nothing but isolation. Because in the end, the world doesn't fear noise. It fears stability. It fears clarity. It fears the man who can see 10 moves ahead and never flinches. That's the kind of power Machiavelli respected. Not the roar of the lion, but the patience of the fox. The one who knows when to move, when to wait, and when to disappear. The fox avoids traps. But the tough guy, he only knows how to be the lion, loud, aggressive, forceful, roaring at every shadow that moves. And in a world filled with traps, snares, politics, and silent consequences, that isn't power. That's a setup for failure. He can't pivot when needed. He can't change tactics when the wind shifts. He can't adapt to situations where brute force doesn't apply. So what does he do? He escalates. He gets louder when he should go silent. He gets more aggressive when he should grow more thoughtful. Every time he does that, he reveals just how limited he truly is. Because real power isn't about being unstoppable, it's about being adaptable. The most dangerous people in any room are never the ones shouting the loudest. They're the ones with options. The ones who can choose force but rarely need it. The ones who can dominate but prefer to influence. The ones who could destroy but instead build. They're unpredictable not because they're erratic, but because they're strategic, measured, deliberate, patient. They don't play for the moment. They play for the game. While the tough guy throws punches, these people move pieces. They watch patterns, set traps, and wait for the perfect moment. And when that moment comes, they strike once, with precision, and vanish before anyone knows what happened. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, because everyone sees, but few understand." What people see when you act tough isn't power, it's instability. And instability doesn't intimidate strong people. It annoys them, exhausts them, and slowly pushes them away until you're surrounded by exactly what you deserve: emptiness. Because no one wants to manage your emotions. No one wants to tiptoe around your pride. No one wants to calculate your mood before every conversation just to keep the peace. So they stop trying. They withdraw, they go silent, they protect themselves. They stop engaging. And all that's left are people who either fear you or use you. Sometimes both, but never people who truly respect you. Those who stay aren't loyal. They're opportunists. They cheer your aggression because it benefits them. They hide behind your temper, using your outbursts to advance their own interests. They let you be the storm while they collect the calm. But when the consequences arrive, and they always do, they'll be the first to disappear, because their loyalty was never to you. It was to what you could do for them. Machiavelli warned about this. Useful men are rare, but men who appear useful are everywhere. And the tough guy surrounds himself with the latter because he can't tell the difference. He mistakes flattery for respect, compliance for loyalty, obedience for trust. But real loyalty isn't loud. It's quiet. It shows up when it matters, not when it's easy. It protects you when you're strong, yes, but also when you're weak. But the tough guy never shows weakness. So he never learns who truly supports him. His relationships stay shallow, transactional, fragile. And when he finally faces loss, failure, or isolation, no one shows up. Because no one ever really knew him. Only the act, only the performance. You can't build a support system on theater. Over time, that act becomes heavier, exhausting. You can't drop your guard. You can't ask for help without looking uncertain. You can't pause without seeming unsure. You live in constant tension, trapped in the image of control you built for others. And that image becomes your cage. You become a fortress with no doors, impenetrable but also unreachable. The walls meant to protect you become the same walls that suffocate you. Meanwhile, others are growing. They're learning, adapting, collaborating. They're not afraid to look weak if it means getting stronger. They're not afraid to ask for help if it means getting better. They're not afraid to look quiet if it means staying dangerous. And slowly, they're taking everything the tough guy thought belonged to him: respect, influence, opportunity, trust. Because the world doesn't reward performances. It rewards performance. It rewards contribution, humility, adaptability, and competence. Not dominance. Not intimidation. Not volume. Sustainable power doesn't come from being feared. It comes from being valued. Not feared because you shout the loudest, but feared because your absence would leave a gap no one else can fill. Because you offer something rare: clarity, results, stability. That's the kind of fear Machiavelli respected. Not the fear of your rage, but the fear of your competence. Not the fear of what you might do, but the fear of what they'd lose if you weren't there. That's why the most powerful people often appear humble, unimposing, unthreatening, until they move. And when they move, everything changes. Because their power was never about display, it was about substance. It was embedded in who they are, in what they've built, in the trust they've earned. They don't win every argument. They win wars. They don't dominate every conversation. They influence outcomes. They don't need to look powerful because they are powerful. Think about the people you respect most. Not the ones who boast or bark or demand attention, but the ones who carry quiet gravity. The ones who walk into a room and make it still. The ones who speak softly yet are listened to completely. The ones whose silence feels heavier than another's noise. That's not performance, that's presence. That's the quiet tension of real strength. It's power that doesn't need to prove itself, because it's already proven. The irony is that the more you focus on becoming valuable, the less you feel the need to appear powerful. Your work starts speaking louder than you ever could. Your results become your argument. Your competence becomes your armor. You stop needing to prove yourself. You stop needing to dominate every room. You stop trying to win every conflict because your energy shifts from performance to precision, from dominance to influence, from ego to strategy. And slowly the world begins to treat you differently. People defer to you not because you demand it, but because you've earned it. They bring you in not because they fear your wrath, but because they trust your clarity. This is the difference between the image of power and the reality of it. The image of power is loud. The reality of power is quiet. The image demands attention. The reality commands respect. The image burns fast and bright. The reality lasts. And once you feel the difference, you never go back. Because the tough guy is trapped in a performance that ages poorly, trapped in a cycle of escalation that yields diminishing returns, trapped in a reputation that closes more doors than it opens. Meanwhile, the strategic operator is free to adapt, free to pivot, free to evolve, free to build alliances instead of enemies, free to lead without fear, to command without noise. Machiavelli, so often misunderstood, was never glorifying cruelty. He wasn't praising tyranny. What he said was this: if you must choose between being loved or feared, it is safer to be feared. But he wasn't talking about violence. He was talking about reliability, about predictability, about the stability that comes when people respect your competence so deeply that they hesitate to cross you, not out of terror, but out of calculation. Because your record makes them think twice. Your precision makes them cautious. Your consistency makes them respect you. That's the kind of fear that builds empires. Not the kind that sparks rebellion, but the kind that commands loyalty. Not the kind that crushes others, but the kind that compels them to align with you because they trust your judgment. And that kind of power has nothing to do with being tough. It has everything to do with being necessary. So if you want to be powerful, stop asking how to look stronger. Start asking how to become more valuable. Build skills people rely on. Develop judgment people trust. Create results people can't ignore. Lead in a way that inspires, not intimidates. Operate in a way that calms, not escalates. Move in a way that makes people feel safer with you than without you. Because influence is what people give you when they trust your motives, your competence, and your vision. Acting tough builds none of those things. It replaces trust with fear, connection with control, substance with show. And eventually everyone gets tired of the show. You'll see it in their eyes, the hesitation, the distance, the quiet retreat behind polite smiles. You won't know why they stopped calling, why you weren't invited, why your name isn't mentioned, but you'll feel it. The coldness behind their greetings, the politeness masking their departure. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. Because the people you needed have already left. They don't want tough. They want trustworthy. They don't want loud. They want competent. They don't want someone who dominates the room. They want someone who elevates it. And that requires letting go of the very thing you thought made you strong. You let go of the need to appear powerful and focus instead on becoming powerful. You let go of the obsession with being feared and focus on being respected. You stop trying to win every battle and start solving real problems. That's how you become indispensable, because power isn't given. It's attracted. It's earned. Built slowly through consistency, competence, and character. Not through aggression, not through intimidation, not through performance. Through who you are when no one is watching, how you act when no one is clapping, what you build when no one is cheering. And the final irony, the moment you stop caring about appearing tough, is often the moment people start seeing you as unshakably strong. Because that's confidence that doesn't waver, doesn't need validation, doesn't rely on dominance, and doesn't crumble under pressure. Maybe the goal was never to become the alpha. Maybe the goal was to become the anchor. The calm one. The capable one. The person who doesn't shake the room but holds it together. Not through fear, but through presence. Not through dominance, but through trust. That's what real strength looks like. That's what real power feels like. And it has nothing to do with how loud you are. It has everything to do with who you are when the performance ends, when the mask falls, when the noise fades. Because in that silence, what remains, your competence, your composure, your value, that's the only kind of strength that lasts. That's how you win without fighting. That's how you lead without forcing. That's how you build an empire, not through domination, but through distinction. Through the rare, quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs to act tough because they've become something far more dangerous. They've become necessary.